Welcome to C4 News, and I'm C4, your host. I want to introduce you to my non politically correct newscast channel. Here, you won't just get one side of the news. I don't have any affiliation with any Democrat or Republican. I am an independent voter. No one owns my mind or point of view. My aim is to not just bring you beneficial news, but information that will enlighten you, spark thought. In other words, I want to make you think. Think about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Where you came from, where you are, and especially where you're going as a people and civilization. Welcome to C4 News, and I'm C4, your host. Since our last cast, there has been some developments that have had a tremendous impact on this cast. And due to these elements, I paused the cast for another week. Trump was shot at while having an outside rally in Pennsylvania. The gunman was a young man in his 20s that remarkably was not stopped before he let off multiple shots. Trump was supposedly grazed on the ear, and how he was grazed on the ear and not hit in the head seems nearly impossible considering the aim. But despite his narrow escape, he still attended the Republican convention where he accepted the nomination for president. But during this convention, some weird things happened. I found out that Amber Rose, Hulk Hogan, Isaiah Washington, Sexy Red, whoever that is, Kanye, and would you believe even 50 Cent supports or endorses his presidency. I think this has less to do with his politics and more to do with his rebellious attitude toward the status quo. He is shock treatment to the system. I didn't say that shock treatment was all good, but at least he's different than a usual stiff-necked politician. I could never see me supporting him, but I can understand why some do. He is great entertainment. Trump also announced his running mate, J.D. Vance, of whom I don't know much about, except that he served in a non-combat role in the Marines. While serving during the Iraq War, he graduated from Ohio State and Yale. Impressive. Before becoming a senator in 2023, he is married to an attorney with Indian heritage named Yusha Chilakuri, whose name I'm quite sure I just butchered. Please excuse me, ma'am. And they have 3 children. Trump was recently interviewed by the NABJ, a black journalist organization. Taking that interview was ludicrous. They attempted to be serious, and he was who he is. Trump does not answer questions. His answer to almost every question is that the problem is the immigrants crossing the border. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. He did not flinch on crazy. He stayed on message. And now that, excuse me if I mispronounce your name, Kamala Harris has replaced Biden in the presidential campaign, Trump is so thrown off that he is blatantly and unapologetically pulling the race card from his sleeve while he's at the poker table. He has called Kamala everything but a child of God. I don't like Kamala, as you know. I think she's a chameleon. I think that she's only black when it's convenient. How can you convince me that you're concerned or will fight for the rights of black men, let alone black people, when you're married to a white guy who I heard was Jewish? I'm not saying that she doesn't mess with black men, because I've heard that she has. But I guess none of the black men that she's encountered has been worth marrying. She is something else. I can't figure out whether she's bad or worse as compared to Trump. I can't figure out who is who. Would I rather face an enemy knowing who you are, or whether I would rather get stabbed in the back by a so-called friend. I guess I have to choose the enemy that I know. At least I know who I'm fighting. Kamala Harris has the Hillary Clinton syndrome. It sounds real good coming out of her mouth, but the application is something you would not want any part of. She's just like Trump. She's an opportunist. I'm so glad that I'm an independent voter, and I support Cornel West. If you listen to any of his speeches on YouTube, you'll understand why I support him. Kamala reminds me of a boa constrictor that you have as a pet. And as you play with it, dangling off your shoulders, it tries to give you a necktie that will kill you in 2 minutes flat. Now, I'm not saying that she's Clarence Thomas, but she's closely related. Instead of giving us black people valuable information or promote policies that would even the playing field, she chooses to disrespect us. In her speeches and interviews, she talks jive for a few minutes, then she sheds that fake skin and goes and cuddles with her white husband. Black Americans are not only related to the Palestinian people, but we share a history of suffering and being taken advantage of. Isn't she the vice president? Isn't Israel performing genocide on the Palestinian people? Isn't Africa being ripped apart by dictators and leaders that the U.S. has helped obtain power? Are black people in America being treated fairly or been given what we were promised while America delivers billions of dollars of taxpayer money to Ukraine and Israel, along with billions more in weapons? Didn't America help rebuild Europe and Japan after World War II? While black people have not received the mere 40 acres, let alone that mule that we were promised. Why has everyone else in the world been paid but us? Why did the Voters Act not pass? The answer to these questions, along with almost every other issue that black people have in America, is for one reason. We are not written in. We are not protected under the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. If we are mentioned, we are mentioned as slaves, not citizens. And these are the founding documents of America. We helped build this country physically and economically and haven't received a dime. Even our black institutions of higher learning are not being funded properly. In the urban neighborhood, we're packed like sardines. Our school system is crap. Grocery stores are sparse and large industry is merely non-existent. All while our neighborhoods are flooding with drugs that we're locked up for attempting to sell to put food on the table. Black people are just over 12% of the American population, and that comes from the Office of Minority Health or the HHS.gov site. But we're over 38% of the prison population. That comes from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. While our Hispanic and Native American brothers and sisters are in the same boat that we're in, the problem is that they're mostly bordered with the U.S. or lived here before Christopher Columbus discovered this country. Whatever that's supposed to mean. While we were brought on slave ships, which kind of takes me off topic for a second. How do you discover a place where people already live? That's like saying that I just discovered electricity yesterday when I turned on my light switch. This comment is not meant to disparage any particular person, but white people as a whole have sold us a long series of tall tales that don't stand up under sunlight. The manipulation of the English language is dangerous. It is used to confuse and misdirect the population. This actually becomes the entire point for me creating this newscast. We, the people, are not actually people or considered people. We're considered cattle. We are trained to follow a certain set of rules that allow us to continually be held captive by our masters. As black people, you should never be a Democrat, let alone a Republican. We all should be independent voters. Our vote should be for sale just like the politicians are. Until a party decides to write us in as a protected people in their bylaws, we should be forming our own party or voting for independent candidates. Put the Democratic Party on notice. Either write us in as a protected population or we will vote independently. The problem is getting to that point. Most of us have been trained so thoroughly that we believe that any election for either party affects our life. I hate to give you this little bit of information, but this is not Trump's first, second, or third presidency. In reality, Trump has been in office from George Washington to Biden, given a few exceptions in between, like Lincoln, maybe Johnson, Carter, and Obama. And Obama was used as a training mechanism. Think about it. If Democrats cared about you or the population as a whole, why didn't the health care bill pass when they had the House and the Senate? Why didn't the bill pass when it was health care for everyone? They told you that was communism. The truth is that they are partly funded by the healthcare industry. Passing a bill to help people would hurt their pocket. And you know they couldn't have that. The bill did not pass until Obama agreed to allow the healthcare industry to write the rules and regulations. And now that Kamala has chosen her running mate, this Tim Walz, should I do cartwheels? I think not. Even though he seems to be the best of the litter. He more or less talks straight, but straight where? He supported Hillary Clinton for president publicly, and he approaches the Israel-Palestinian conflict on the side of present-day Israel. No one goes to the root of the situation. No one discusses how this land was taken away from the Palestinians and given to a group of people who did not even belong there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read a letter from Albert Einstein and what he thought about the situation in 1946. This is the letter. Albert Einstein, January 21st, 1946. It says, "Dear Sir, I have served as witness before the Anglo-American Inquiry Commission on Palestine for the sole purpose to act in favor of our just cause. But it is, of course, impossible to prevent distortion by the press. I am in favor of Palestine being developed as a Jewish homeland, but not a separate state. It seems to me a matter of simple common sense that we cannot ask to be given political rule, over Palestine, where 2/3 of the population are not Jewish. What we can and should ask is a secured binational status in Palestine with free immigration. If we ask for more, we are damaging our own cause, and it is difficult for me to grasp that our Zionists are taking such an intransigent position which can only impair our cause. Very truly yours, Albert Einstein." I don't necessarily agree with all he has to say, but even he, who is regarded as one of the most intelligent people of the 20th century, didn't agree that Israel should be a place at all, especially at the detriment of those who already live there. The reason I have on this t-shirt, all right, is not a symbol of him as a person, but as an idea. When you reach a new level of understanding or think outside the box, it is considered Einstein. And he is the measure of extreme intelligence, not a political figure. He's just like Charles Drew or George Washington Carver. But anyway, according to the UK's National Army Museum, the Britain's Balfour Declaration promised the European Jews a national home in Palestine, which was controlled by the Ottoman Empire until World War I. This proclamation was made by the League of Nations, which consisted of Britain, France, Italy, and Japan. Sounds kind of familiar? Doesn't that sound like what happened to the Indians here? Someone else decided that they would take over control of a place where people lived by exterminating the current population by any means necessary. So, displacing the Palestinian people was preconceived before World War II. Now, I'm going to try to make this language clear. The extermination of the Palestinian people has been planned since World War I. This is undisputable. Black people, you are being fooled, bamboozled, and misled in so many different areas that it is difficult to fully explain. Check this out. Who is it that black people call the devil? Yeah, that's right. But if they are the devil, then why do you share the devil's religion? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? You've been brutally brainwashed. Then you were trained like a dog, either to be down, get down, or they were going to lay you down. Think about it. If they loved, as we say in Islam, Isa, Christians say Jesus, so much, then why did they take advantage of the least instead of taking care of the least? Why would you tell people to pray to Jesus if there's no example in the Bible of anyone ever praying to Jesus? If you read the Bible, Jesus always tells you not to worship him, but to worship the one that sent him. Even the angels from heaven refuse praise and worship. The devil's job is to divert you from the target. I have a question. Would Satan rather you pray to Jesus or God? Then there are those that say that Jesus was God in the flesh, which sounds ridiculously crazy to me because who worships and prays to themselves? The white man has poisoned your mind so much that even the most simple things are excused. I love Isa, as we say in Islam. Christians say Jesus. But he is your teacher, not your master. He teaches us how to serve the chief. Isa, Jesus, or whatever name you want to call the greatest blessed man to ever walk the earth, he did not create one tree, ocean, or atom. He is not attributed a planet, let alone a solar system. So what are you doing? Although Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever, he did not create the game, a team, or a league. He was subject to what was created before him. I use this analogy to bring some understanding on the topic. God is supreme of all others. There is no one in his class. Understand how the devil diverts you from the truth. As black people who originated from Africa, our heritage has always been worshiping God, either by the constellations, the seasons, or the perfection of our environment. We are the descendants of the creators of civilization. From Africa to Japan, and Japan to the Americas, our footprint is solidly imprinted in the earth. Now, someone explain to me why we are supposed to bow to a system that doesn't even recognize us or what we are owed. What makes you think that we have to play ball for their team when we are the creators of the environment for the league to exist. The Nubian Empire existed way before Egypt was established or even thought of. Africa suffers today for giving away its strongest asset, its people. This era should be one of strength and confidence, not submissiveness and cowardness. The same strength that our ancestors used to survive the cruelest of situations should be the same strength that we use to fight back now that we have a foothold. What if Harriet Tubman would have been okay with being a slave? Or when she escaped, she did not decide that she had to go back and save others? What if George Washington Carver would have thought that he was not as or more intelligent than his white counterparts? And so on and so on. Our history is prominent and vast. Are we going to take control of what is rightfully ours? Or are we going to allow this white man to get us killed by nuclear war, polluting the air, the water, and concentrating all of the wealth while we all either starve or slit each other's throats over crumbs at the table? This is a time to unite our young people around the truth, not what we are simply subject to. Look at us. Men want to be women and women want to be men. All while we kill each other over which could barely be crumbs in our neighborhoods. We should demand that we be written in as a protected people and be paid what we are owed, plus interest. Payday is today, or we take our votes to the independent party, or we start our own minority party. Between us, the Latino, the Native American, Asian, and Arab community, we have substantial numbers to overturn a system that has beaten and abused us. The same atrocities that they have perpetrated on us, they have done to others as well. Remember, Latinos only speak Spanish because Spain terrorized them. The Native Americans were slaughtered like sheep. The Asians remember the sick man and nuclear bombs. And we are witnessing the extermination of the Afro-Arabs in Palestine. It is time to unify before this sickness, which has been on a path to destruction, passes the red line. Thank you. This is C4 for C4 News, saying once again, keep your ear to the ground while looking up. Peace.